hopefully an interactive session. So I have warned you there. We want some sort of feedback and discussion and things like that. We want to talk about moving from certainty to a discovery mindset. We've got a discovery exercise, or several of them, in terms of how we challenge our views and everything else. We're going to talk about where you discover, experiment, and deliver, some of the key skills, your answers to the question I'm going to ask in a minute, a few final thoughts, and then at the back of it's our course that we put here for free, and then talk about the next session as well. So, energize it, because we are quiet today, and remember, I can't see you, so please come off mute. And we'll go around the room to whoever's on. Tell us the best thing that's happened to you in the last 7 days. And don't all shout at once.
I can start. I had a really nice weekend, and I was able to catch up with a friend that I hadn't seen in a while, so that was great to do.
Nice. Who else?
I was doing a puzzle, and normally I enjoy them, but this one was horrific. It was the wave, and we finally finished it. We said the person who gave it to us, it wasn't a gift, it was an act of violence. So we finished that. It's been boxed up and palmed on to someone else. So that was good.
I love that. Love that. Who else?
I can go. I went to go see the Michael Jackson movie last night, which was great. It was a big group of us went. We almost took up like the entire room in the cinema. So we did. It was like my family and then my friend and her mum came, and yeah, we had a great time. I would definitely recommend it.
Excellent. Excellent. Who else was on the call? Since I can't say, so I'm going to remind you guys.
I can go next. So I can just check that you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think for me, I met up with a friend that I hadn't seen in quite a while. We went to go watch Devil Wears Prada in the theatre. I'd highly recommend. So yeah, it was just great having a catch up.
Excellent. Who else? Tyler or Renata, if you can guide me to how many people are left that might want to speak.
I guess I can jump in next.
Yeah.
I had a nice girls' trip up to Manchester over the weekend.
Nice.
So with my friends in the sun.
Oh, excellent. Manchester in the sun. Love it. Who else?
Kevin and me, is it?
Yeah, go for Kyle.
Yeah. I was at a farmer conference in Barcelona, and me and a colleague managed to get to the beach 2 of the days after the conference and have a beer on the beach in Barcelona. So that was pretty awesome.
Yep. I am pleased for you, Kyle. And mine, I was going to say somebody's got on mute. Mine, I suppose, randomly, I met one of the photographers I follow on YouTube in the place I was doing photography the other day, and he was only there because of my recommendation. So that was really interesting to speak to him and hang out with him, taking some shots and things like that. So that was good. Right. Your thoughts. We will give you some time for this, but in the interest of creating community discussion, everything else, I want you to have a think about your best aha discovery moment where you have worked through something. It doesn't necessarily have to be product related, but where you've gone into that discovery and gone, that maybe wasn't what I thought, or that's really unlocked something, or we've done something differently. But have a think about what you've done over your career. I mean, it could be life outside of work, and then have a think about what that is and let us know at the end. I'm going to give you some time instead of putting you on the spot, so I'll leave that there. Have a quick think of that or write it down, and then yeah, we'll circle back at the end on that one. Kyle, over to you.
So this is moving from a certainty to a discovery mindset. So first of all, why? Why should we do that? And it really revolves around just the way the world is at the minute. So if you look at the geopolitical landscape at the minute, lots of uncertainty, lots of volatility with the war in the Middle East. And then you think about the world that we live in. we've lots of data, it's a very digital, connected economy, there's lots of human beings. And so as a result, those things add an awful lot of complexity into the world. And that complexity, together with the uncertainty and the volatility, it just makes things very ambiguous. And so as a result, the way we used to go about setting up organizations and teams for a certainty mindset, it worked well in a world where you know, we had certainty and we could predict things. And so think things like if you're running a company, you're making a homogeneous product, let's say like milk cartons, for example, whereas a lot of the way the world is in a minute isn't a very certain place. There tends to be lots of uncertainty, and therefore what we need to do is to better help navigate that more complex problem space. We need to try and adopt the discovery mindset. So, you know, and I think a lot of us will have worked in organizations where there's generally like published standards that you need to follow. And then with the discovery mindset, what we tend to try to do is, right, just let's move fast, let's try to learn really fast, and then improve ourselves as well. And back in a certainty mindset, there tends to be a resistance to change. So anybody who's ever done any change initiative in a big organization, you'll have run into this. And what we want to do when we're trying to embrace a discovery mindset is we want to try to embrace change all the time. Just accept that change is basically the new normal. Again, when organizations or teams have a certainty mindset, they tend to follow a prescribed workflow. And then obviously with a discovery mindset, you sort of, given the way that the world constantly changes, what we want to do is we want to try to adopt the principle of just continuous improvement, always improving our workflow. And then I think, and actually a lot of companies are still like this, so they tend to organize around expertise. So you'll see this like in big companies. We've got the finance department, the IT department, the HR department, the sales department. But if you imagine a customer out in the streets and they look at, let's just pick a company, what jumps in the head, let's say BMW, right? They don't think about BMW as a bunch of IT people and marketing people. They just think that's a company that gives me a car. And so what we want to do when we're trying to adopt a discovery mindset is we want to think, instead of organizing around expertise, what we want to do, we want to work in collaborative teams, putting the customer at the center of what we do, trying to get the value to that customer. Another thing with certainty mindset is do as you're told. I certainly I don't like being told what to do. I don't think anybody does, and I really struggled in my first couple of jobs. I worked in a bank in Ireland, AIB, and I've literally been told what to do. And it's funny, it dampens your brain because you don't have to think, you just get told what to do and then you go do it. Whereas in a discovery mindset, what we want to do is we want to create an environment where we can challenge status quo. So challenge each other, challenge how we're thinking, challenge how we're doing things. The other one with certain mindset is it's the thought that we can plan our way to successful delivery, and it assumes that we understand all the things we need to understand to execute a project. Whereas if you think about it, in the world we live in, at the start of any initiative, any project, is the point in time at which you know the least about the thing that you're going to do. And as you move forward, you're just going to accumulate more knowledge about the thing. So it seems silly to try and fix the time and the cost and the scope of any project or program at the beginning, especially in a complex problem space. So instead, what we do is we basically have a discovery mindset. We accept that there is uncertainty is an inherent feature in this problem space, in a complex problem space, and we just accept that we can't have all the answers when we're planning, and so you just come up with a more kind of product-focused, agile plan, and you iterate as you go. And then the last one is deliver to dates. Same as the previous point, you can't fix a date because you just don't know. So instead, what we do is we just try experiment, think about value, get fast to the value, get the value to the customers, and really just focus on getting value into people's hands instead of delivering to dates. And that's really the nuance between moving from a certainty to discovery mindset. So again, certainty works well in problem spaces where we have certainty, such as the milk carton factory. But in most organizations these days, given the world we live in, there's lots of complexity, and so therefore we're better off adopting a discovery mindset.
And Kyle, I think the reason I started with this, the reason I started with this is because what we see is somebody just got muted. That's it. the reason I actually started with this slide and this discussion about mindset is because we often go into clients who tell us they've got agile product teams, yet they still sit on the left side of this. They still try and deliver the dates. They're still doing what they're told. They don't like things changing. Like if something changes with that user problem space, it's like it's a big problem, and they don't see it as that discovery side of things of trying to understand more, trying to build better value for the customer and everything else like that. So it's not a given just because you're trying to go into an agile product team that you're going to have them. This really has to be worked on. We have to push that. We have to challenge the impediments that are in our way that are holding us back from this. So anybody got anything to add to that? Do people recognize some of this in the work that they do at the moment? Let me see where you all are first. Who have we got? Who can I pick on? Oh, Laura. Sorry, you're sitting with your head down. I don't know whether you're taking notes or doing lunch. Do you see any of this in the work that you do or where you are?
Bits of it. I think most places sit somewhere between the two, depending on what's going on.
What do you think the biggest challenges you've seen to this?
I think it's just the unknown, isn't it? If you're trying a different approach, then it's getting comfortable with that uncertainty. And we're all working at places that are there to make a profit and be successful. So it's the risk appetite as well.
Yeah.
For shaking up the way everything is.
Yeah, without doubt. Abby, I see you sitting on the left of my screen. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a bit interesting. I think I would echo that about risk appetite. So, like for backgrounds, I work in a bank, and rather conservative bank, I would say. So a lot of the things we do in our innovation space has a lot of red tape, but also has a lot of you can't really progress until you're certain about something, or there's a lot of a bigger consensus about it. So it does make it more challenging to get innovation.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of an irony to that though, because when you see people default back to a project, like Cal says, they try to plan this at the start of when they don't know anything, and then they'll tell you it was delivered successfully and it was green, but you've got a whole load of change requests, things have dropped out of it, you've got a risk register as long as your arm carrying all this forward, but it was all great and we knew everything that we were going to do. So if you actually critically evaluate that at the end, I don't think it is the case. It's just the safety net that we have, right?
Agreed.
Let me share my screen again and we will go back to that. Right. I'm going to leave you all on the screen so at least I can see you. Right, I've got an exercise here. Just a quick one. So if you work in a coffee shop and I come in, I'm the customer, I move to the front, would you make me a coffee?
If your queue jumped.
I don't know. That's what you've got at the minute, right?
Yeah, if you've queue jumped, no.
And if I hadn't, would you make me a coffee?
Yeah.
Based on the information there, I would have follow-up question is, what drink do you want?
Right. So yeah, that's the first question, right? Because in one of those places, something as simple as this of just wanting a drink could be the simplest thing around, and yet we already make assumptions that might be incorrect. But we assume in the world we work that is even more complex than this and has things all over the place, that we see a couple of sentences and we know exactly what to do, how to do it, and when. And yet, if we look at the next slide, I am going to drop you down. Let me point up the top, Kevin. The problem statement, right? I'm tired. I wanted to pick me up. And what I actually asked for was one of those massive Starbucks orders, right? You think about how many ways you can customize that in this day and age and all the micro bubbles and God knows what splashes of this and that they put in it, right? This was a real picture that I got from the internet of somebody's order, right? Yet people would potentially just grab a drink or do that, right? But if we were truly discovering, right, a good question again, why would you serve me first if I might have queue jumped? But again, we see that stuff just goes to the top of a backlog or a pile because somebody shouted about it, but we haven't really discovered why it's there, what the problem is, why I should do that over something else, right? The next bit is it's your 5 whys. We used actually this yesterday with a client, the 5 whys, the fishbowl and things like that, right? To try and understand if that is truly the problem. That I've come in for that, but actually the real problem, if we dug down, might be that I'd been overworked. We were putting big presentations together, hardly slept, and actually what I need is somebody else to help out. I need more sleep, but I've fixed it with what I assumed was the problem, that is not really fixing the underlying customer problem. And yes, it's a silly example, but if you link this back to anything you do day to day, we make a lot of assumptions and we move forward without doing a lot of discovery in some of those areas. Some yes, some no, but I'm fairly sure you can all probably pick a point where you were given something and didn't really have an idea of sizing why, what the problem was, who it really affected truly, customer base, things like that. Yet it goes into order of a backlog and we do it. Like, what was the value of that? And I think it's, again, pushing on that mindset. We will focus on that more than some of the tools. There's tools out there that do all this, like we've mentioned a couple of, but you have to take that pause as a product person and push you and your teams into trying to understand more about that problem space. And then you can get the problem solution fit, and then you'd be testing those out, you'd be experimenting everything else, and you'd be breaking that problem down, right? Does that, I know that was a silly example from like life, but does that resonate with people, what I'm on about? And have you seen any of that in terms of your work?
I mean, I don't work in product, I work in recruitment, Matt, but I see that. So we've just taken the brief for a CIO role, and my mentality has always been ask the stupid question. So I will always ask questions I think I know the answer to, just to make sure I do, and to spark the conversation. And this client we've got at the moment was a bit surprised by that, and they said, well, you should know this. You the guys, you should know what questions to ask at interview for the CIO role. And I'm like, well, I know what I look for in a CIO. I don't know what you look for in your CIO. So I'd always ask the stupid question.
No, I agree. And it is the sort of things you have to ask, right? It's like, how many times does this occur is one of the things I would ask, right? Because that's one of the things to size that problem. So anybody else?
I think this is quite interesting, and the title on your slide is interesting with what I actually wanted, because working in product, I think, is seeing the line between want and need, and where that intersects and where the sweet spot is, because what you want might not be what you need, and you need to find something that fulfills a need both for the customer or the stakeholder and for your organization, because you can't swing it one way, otherwise you're going to fail, because it's either not sustainable or there's dissatisfaction and it doesn't get used.
Yeah, without doubt. And I think, I mean, I purposely put that, right, the wanted bit, because the customer will come to you, whether it's internal or external, like, I want this. Well, do you want it or do you need it? And then you can start and do even basic prioritization, right? You can start to understand, like, is it even a tech debt thing or something like that, right? You can start to ask basic questions. And then you get to, I mean, I put that because it's like, what was the true thing I probably really needed underneath that, not just wanted? And I think that's the thing, right? It might be a stick and plaster now, and then you do 3 other things after that to bring it all together. Anybody else? Thank you, Laura.
Just sort of discussing it. I mean, we're in a place at the moment where we've just been given some like next like roadmap items, but they are all solutions. And I've literally just been downstairs with a colleague who's been given like a solution, and you know, we've just been sort of like just doing like the 5 whys with him downstairs, like, you know, and this is our problem. We're constantly trying to back out of solutions instead of starting with the problems, because we have like a real strong stakeholder group. We're a global company with, like, you know, different parts of the world, you know, strongly like requesting specific solutions rather than us looking at, but you know, like what the problem is. So it is a real like challenge for us constantly, I think, isn't it? Definitely.
And I mean, for me, I think it's wonderful that you're challenging that, right? Because we see it. I mean, at the minute, we go to clients and the first words are, we want AI. And it's like, well, what's the problem? Like, we did this yesterday, right? Like, yes, AI is talked about a lot, but what we're trying to solve, like, do you even have the data there? Do you have the mechanisms to capture this, to go and get that from the AI? Like, starting to try and peel some of that back. like you say, you're getting down to that real problem statement. You go, actually, you don't need any of that. You need somebody to do something right in a governance structure here instead of a brand new system, right? So and then it leads on to that experimentation and things. Now, I've stayed away from experimentation a bit in this because it's a whole subject in itself, and I could probably do an hour on it to do it right. But that's where this leads next to go, right, let's prove that, or let's try and build my knowledge of that problem space and see where that takes us with data-led decision making, right? Not just we want this. But yeah, the fact you challenge it, I think it's absolutely brilliant. That's the right thing, right? But it's interesting because I think everybody will see something like this in their work, whether it's product, project, whatever it is. We always get these either generic, vague, or statements like we must have this now. Like we can't run the business without. It's like you've been running a manual process for 10 years and like why is this a business blocker now, right? And I think it's just going back to that basic business analysis, right? Getting some questions, getting some data, getting some pointers. I think, yeah, it's something just to be mindful of. But yeah, silly example, but something so simple as a drink, we can't even assume that. So we shouldn't assume without testing or probing further on requirements and problems that come through. Right. What is this? Shout out.
That is your carpet, Matt, I think.
I wish it was me carpet.
A filter or some description.
Interesting guess. Anybody else?
Oh, I thought it was carpet or yeah. Oh yeah. I thought it was some sort of carpet.
You ready?
Pullover.
The book.
Oh.
And we'll go through a few more of these, but the idea is that you might only have one piece of information on that or one viewpoint that we are making assumptions of or things like that, right? We sometimes need to step back. We need to go and find out more information. We need a different viewpoint of this, right? So next one.
That plant that you blow.
Dandelion seeds.
Dandelion, yeah.
What is this one? By the way, we had great fun trying to find these. So
it looks like sea moss. I don't know.
I mean, that's a really good answer. It wasn't anything as extravagant as that. But anybody else?
Fiberglass.
Nope. It is.
No way.
Yeah. This one was an interesting one.
Red pepper.
That was my first thought as well.
Ketchup.
Oh, that's a really good guess as well. Anybody else?
Red paint.
Gardening can.
Good guesses. Not right. And again, right, these are a little bit of fun, but that is the problem that we have. Sometimes we only are given that view, like a horse with blinkers on, right? We only see this tiny little bit, especially in the interconnected worlds we work and matrix teams and things like that. Somebody's just told you their bit, but we don't maybe see that end-to-end impact on the product or the problem statement that then arises after that, right? And the idea is to say, take the step back, gather the data, do your discovery to try and build that picture. I mean, we're talking there before, the things you did over the last 7 days, the puzzle, right? That's frustrating because those pieces might look fairly similar at a point in time. It's only when you get them all together, they start to look like what they are, right? Same as this. And again, silly little examples, but we can't determine some of these. How do we determine 3 sentences on a user story? Kyle.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Yep.
Yeah, super. So when to discover, experiment, and deliver.
I can't hear you now.
Am I coming through now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so basically, what this talk about is trying to help us understand the difference between when do we experiment and when do we just build the thing and deliver it. And to illustrate this bit, so I'll talk about a small company I had, a startup a few years ago. The business model was basically HelloFresh. And so at the start, we did a lot of exploring. So just trying to figure out, you know, what was our offering going to be, what was the type of food, and a lot of that you can do with just sort of good old-fashioned sort of desk research. And then at some point, then we have to start running experiments to see. And a good way to think about this is sort of reasoning from first principles. We know other companies were doing it, such as HelloFresh, and we knew it was possible, but we didn't understand ourselves how to do that. So we just did simple experiments, just putting food in a box, posting it to ourselves. And what we learned was basically on post, the National Post Service in the South wasn't fast enough. So we had to use a courier, use several couriers, eventually found a courier that worked. And you know, in our explore phase, we talked to customers. They gave us a view of what kind of food they wanted. And so now we basically had the infrastructure in place. We knew we could post the food. We'd done the customer interviews. And so, you know, we thought we understood what the customers wanted. And so at that point, then we went into Realize. But of course, there's this difference between stated preferences and revealed preferences. So customers, of course, had told us they wanted the kind of healthier, more salary type meals. And once we're in the Realize phase and we're executing, you know, you're always still running experiments in the background. And then what we ended up realizing was, although customers say they wanted the healthier meals, their choice preference was very much the curries, the Mexican dishes, and the ramens, those kind of more hearty meals. And so even though, while the first idea was in Realize, we're still running other experiments in the background. And it's really just that kind of quick sense making exercise as a team to just think, when this new piece of work comes in, what do we do with it? Do we need to do some research? Should we run an experiment because maybe we're low confidence, we don't know enough? Or is it something we've done before, in which case we can just move it straight into execution mode and just realize it?
Does that make sense to everybody? Questions on it? Anything?
I think we were just talking about this, like with our situation, we're in education. So for example, if I ask teachers how they plan their lessons, they will tell me that they do all these amazing things. They take ages to plan a lesson, like their life depends on it. But then when you look at the data, they're walking to class thinking, who are these people? Like I'm just about to walk into and I've got something on a post-it note. And we quite often get tripped up by, you know, what kind of research or what our users are telling us. So we were just sort of saying, we think like that explore for us is kind of like the opportunity tree type thing, like what are all the options?
Yes.
And then we were saying that we probably don't experiment like early enough, because we work in a situation where sometimes people, like our designers, for example, want something a bit more precise, you know, before they start working on things. They really struggle with kind of like low fidelity. And we've been sort of thinking about how we fill that little gap. So yeah, it was interesting to see this. It's
Yeah, I think it works. Like I say, I mean, even at the point of the realize bit, right? Like Kyle said, there's bits where you know you've done this again and again. If you were expanding something into a different school, like maybe a certain setup, for example, it happens in a very similar way. So you don't have to spend the time trying to work out how or why. You can just move to it. But other things like that, one of the things I like to do because of that very example is basically the Gemba, and go and have a look if you can, because people tell you one thing, but when you actually get it, it's very different. And I remember when I was working on SAP, we asked people about, oh, is all the stock put away right? And you've got nothing in this warehouse in these places. And they're like, yeah, it's all fine. And we walked around, those pallets everywhere. They give us the answer we wanted and they thought they should. Reality's different, but actually getting out there and seeing how somebody interacts with that, like what's the external environment, right? Because some people work where that product is in the world outside and not necessarily just a tech on a laptop, right? What external factors are impacting this or the problems, and actually are they perceived the same way because of being out there? So I think that's always useful as well. So yeah, I think it's a really good one to think about how you even just do some basic research and then experiment from it and things like that. So, but yeah, I think bringing that earlier into your sort of acceptance of work in the backlog and how you move some of that might be quite interesting, because then you should be able to get rid of some work as well, right? We're not going to spend 6 months doing this over different iterations and releases. It doesn't have any value. We're stopping it now, 4 weeks, but actually we save 5 months after that.
Yeah, exactly. Because we went out to schools just before Christmas, and we went to Poland, and we were watching some teachers, and like to your point, they kept saying, we kept getting this complaint, there's too many clicks, the journey's too long, like it's just like we can't use it. And we get there and you watch them, and like they're taking a really long way round when there is something on the screen, because either we haven't made that as prominent, or like we haven't done our bit, or like we haven't onboarded properly. And then we walk up to the whiteboard and we're like, you just do that, and they were like, oh my god, like yeah, that we've got it now. So it's so important. And like you say, the external environment, we walked into classes where like they couldn't log in, so instantly that then puts you on the back foot.
Yeah, and I think some of that's really interesting for me as well, because one of the things I like to do is things like day in the life testing, instead of just system test and integration test, because yes, the boxes might be filled, but we know where they are. Get somebody else to do day in the life testing and go, right, you need to act in this role, do this, log in like that, and everything else. You'll soon find out that it isn't apparent to the people who haven't been spending the time building it for the last God knows how long, that button is where it is, or it does what you assume it does, right?
Yeah.
Because we all make those assumptions, and that's how they get through, and then they unravel, right, once you get to the point of putting in a user's hands. So, but that's why short and sharp as well, right? Release quickly, because then if you find that, you can iterate again and get something out to improve that, fix it, whatever that is. So, but yeah, really interesting one. I put the assumptions grid in. We were just talking about them there, right? I think this for me is one of those things. I've done this with a lot of different people and companies. That top right is the area that you want to be looking at and start and discover, right? Because if it's important unknown, you need to start and get some answers to them pretty quick, in terms of, is it a blocker? Is it really risky that if you don't do that, you go nowhere with it? The rest of them you can get to at different times, and you might not have to go near any of them. But that top right section of what's important unknown, if that's in there, you really need to get onto that pretty quickly with your products. Does anybody use this or some sort of assumptions matrix? I see you're both still on the screen having a conversation about this. I don't know whether it's something that actually resonates there.
Yeah, no, it totally does. So we were just reflecting on the last point, and yeah, we do like a lot of kind of like assumptions.
Yeah.
Where it's like I say, we're in quite a big sort of like matrix. So like we always try and get everyone's assumptions down as well.
I mean, assumptions are great, right? It allows us to take at least a step, but it's the point we have to try and validate, experiment, disprove them, right? We write it like it's going to happen, then we experiment and test to try and disprove that and make sure that we are on the right line. So, but yeah, I think it's a really interesting tool to use. So, anybody else? Assumptions and how they feel about that?
Yeah, I work for a credit company, and we have like a few different clients because I currently work on the system. They're like account management systems, so we're quite new. So our customers or our clients are onboarding onto our system. So sometimes we get requests from the solutions teams, and when we're writing whatever proposal or whatever upgrade to the system, we have something like this just to, sometimes it's the customer or the client thinks that this is what their customers need and this is what works and makes work and would work on our system, but we have something to kind of just evaluate, does that make sense, or some sort. And sometimes it goes, and then we have like a discussion based on it and what's important, what's not important, and what like a must or should have or would like to based on this.
Yeah, absolutely. You bang on with it. Anybody else before we move on? It's a good conversation, everyone. Right. In the interest of time, I'll keep going.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one thing. It's for me is the value, tracking value and understand why we are doing it and going back, because I think it's all these models are great, but at the end of the day, if we forget to continue track why did we want it in the first place, and I think this is where large companies are failing, if I may say that. Because
we see it all the time.
Yeah, and I think this is where what you talked about the SAP example, I actually did it with Unilever, and from let's do some analytics to let's really impact their KPIs and be part of real savings.
Yeah.
It just did like the game changer. But I think very, very few product owners are allowed to actually track the value.
Yeah, and it's a huge point. I've purposely left it out of this. We talk about it a lot with Ascend and our companies, but I could do a good few hours on that and talk about how we look at it, how we prioritize based off that, how we, like you say, put the right mechanisms and metrics in place to look at how we are doing against what our perceived value was. So I purposely left it so I didn't take us down a rabbit hole. We will come back to a value discussion because it's vitally important to know that you're not just being busy, which again is what we see in companies, that they're always busy, but are they truly adding the value for that length of time or capacity that they're using? I would generally think
sorry, only one more thing. Even what you just mentioned the moment I was going to write it down, even day in a life, you can capture the value. Because if you chase, if you actually do a proper day in a life, you can say I'm saving whatever half an hour per employee for so many, and you can still say you can still track that. But if you don't do that, I think it's just another feature, another thing, which actually there is a very high risk to create inefficiency and noise.
Yeah, and I think it's moving away from being a team and a product that are just a feature factory, and actually, are you adding value? And again, that's that discovery bit, right? It's a big question answer, and hence, like I say, I've left it for now, but it's something people should be asking all the time, that if I've done X today, has it moved the business, the customer, whatever forward in the way we expect, that's past monetary value and things like that, of like time, effort, compliance, take your pick, whatever it is, but has something moved the needle on that? And how do we know, right? That's the next question. So, but yeah, it's a great point.
And I think for me with AI, where everyone is now doing more silo discovery, silo writing of stories, if we don't put the in center value tracking, like almost as accountability of any model, I think we are starting creating a lot of noise. And like I recently heard at the AWS conference that Amazon has produced code for 10 years that has never done it before. And I was like, okay, is this value?
Yeah.
So having a 10 years of code, it's really worrying me. It's not giving me a fuzzy feeling of, wow, we are really building a competitive advantage.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it's going to get harder and harder in some of those areas to ascertain that, especially in those silos. We talk about better thinking, and this, I like this diagram because it goes back to what we're doing, right? At the start, things are all over the place. We are trying to take input from everywhere. We really don't understand the problem fully. And obviously problems are in different sizes, right? You're going to have tiny little things that come through, you know how to fix straight away, right? But those other net new features or whatever, or big pushes to move the product forward, very much look like this at the start. And it's that bit about trying to experiment to develop your understanding and reduce that uncertainty and that risk, because every time we do it, we're trying to go after some of those unknowns, our assumptions and everything else. When we get there, we've got a much better increment to go into a release. I like this one. I do work with Strategize as well, and I found this, and I quite like this, the fact finder, and I put this in because, and again, I would like to hear your experiences, but in the product world, the amount of times I hear people try and state something like it's a fact, and actually it's just an assumption or an opinion or something else there, and they are not the same things. So have a look at this in your own time, but it's got lots of nice little things of what you heard and what you should be asking to try and clarify that. And again, things like generalizations, right? Generalizations are good to start off with, but then we need to get down to specifics of like, well, who is that in terms of a customer segment? what part of that process is it? What part of the product is it? Take your pick of any of those, but getting down into those bits allow us to then build better user stories, better acceptance criteria, better testing, etc., etc. But yeah, this was worth a look. So please, when the pack comes out, go and have a look at this, because I think there's some real value in that as well. Right, recap some of the skills, right? The big thing, like I said, that when we work with clients, it's the mindset. I don't care about the terms. I don't care if you're agile, your product team. If you don't have that curiosity mindset, you're pretty much the same as it was before, and you're going to go the same way, do the same things, just chunk them up into 2 or 4 week cycles, right? We talked with some examples there. Assume, right? Make the assumption at the start, but then go and discover, try and prove it, disprove it with the experimentation, right? And again, do that early enough so you can either course correct or put a stop to something if it's not actually going where it should do and not fit in that problem space. We had a bit of a laugh with the pictures and things like that, but that message is gain a different viewpoint, because something could look completely different from a different role, different part of the business, different region, where we sit there and might only have one view of that. The top one, I'm actually a big fan of, right? What if you do nothing? Be curious, right? It goes back to, like, we're always pushed to do something, but sometimes doing nothing is not on the cards as a first bit to go and discover what would happen there. 5 whys, fish bones, take your pick, but drill down into that. Try and understand the problem, understand where it's coming from, why it's happening, things like that, right? It helps bring clarity and you get a better solution out the back of it. And I think I heard this through different conversations there, but challenge that we know our customers, right? Because we hear that a lot in places, but those people are 3 or 4 levels away from the customer. Try and get out there and really, truly get to your customers if you can. Now, I know there's always like barriers between maybe sales and whatever else, not wanting to give that relationship up, but the potential and the value is you can build better products that are tailored to your customer that are then potentially more saleable because you're actually sorting their problem out. And going back to like the slide before, but critically analyze that situation, right? Don't just take it for its word. If something comes out, it's like, is that right? Is that really happening? How many people? Take your pick, whatever it is, but start to answer some of those questions, even at the top level, will give you some idea, because straight away it will tell you whether you need to do something or not, or at least give you that direction. You'll know whether it actually has some value, maybe. You'll know whether you take it into your backlog or not. So that straight away will give you an idea of which direction to go next. Right. I'll give you a good, I think, 40 odd minutes there. I would like some answers to tell us your discovery moments. What were the things that have clicked for you throughout work, life outside of that, whatever it is, but where you've gone to get something that you've seen in a different light, you've got a different opinion of it afterwards?
I can give one.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, so this wasn't like a real product, so like I don't know how much it counts, but it was one that I worked on in university, and it was like part of my final year project, and I was making like a book subscription service for children, and it was sort of like the first time that I'd sort of designed for children, so I was doing like a load of research into how children actually like use digital interfaces and stuff, and at first I was going to design it more just for like children in general and have like quite a wide audience for it. But like the more research that I did into it, I think it was the Nathan Norman group, they're like a UX group, and they did a bunch of research into designing interfaces for children. And the more like obvious thing that I discovered at first was obviously like the different capabilities of, like, for example, like a 5-year-old versus a 12-year-old, like the capabilities of them is going to be very different in like using interfaces like that. But then the less obvious one was actually how much children can like see the difference in like their ages and like how aware they are of that. And so like their sort of conclusion of it was like have a very narrow range whenever it comes to targeting children whenever you're designing interfaces for them, because like for example, like there was a 6-year-old in one of the studies that you know, they designed something that was for 5-year-olds, and they were like, oh, this is designed for babies, like I don't want to use this, and it was all that. So I just, yeah, that was like a big moment for me of like, okay, we're not actually just designing for children, we're designing for like very specific age groups and like actually like stages of development rather than just like children in general. So yeah, then that just sort of impacted how I designed the entirety of the application. You know, it changed like the onboarding and stuff. I made sure that they would like input their age, and then the entire interface would change depending on their age group and stuff. Like for younger children, you would have like the more illustrative stuff and simpler language, and then it would just sort of develop and become more complex for the older kids. So yeah, that was a big moment for me in my final year project in uni.
No, I like that, Lauren. It's a good one. It's like, it's that segmentation, right? Well, so yeah, thanks, Lauren. Anybody else? There's got to be a few of you on here.
I can give you mine.
Yeah,
It's 5 years, 6 years ago when Microsoft Teams came to the picture in my organization. I started having these Coffee Connects, Agile Coffee Connects. And one of my colleagues said, oh, why do you not build a channel on Teams? And I'm like, okay, but really it's like, what is going to happen and all that. And then 6 years later, like 3 years later, we reached the maximum of 10,000 Microsoft members. And 6 years later, now I have had 25,000 people, internal Teams members, community members. And for me, it's like this channel, it's now AI and Agile community. And I post, but I have about 11,000 people coming every 90 days.
Yep.
And my aha moment was that I have no clue who they are. It's like the same as when you're on LinkedIn and others, but this is an internal channel, which people come, they don't say they're there, they read a lot, there are no 11,000 people acting, but I post stuff that 11,000 people reads it.
It's amazing.
And
it really is.
And for me, the main thing is that, first of all, now I'm really experimenting on the channel.
Yep.
And not being afraid to do that. And secondly, I love sharing and giving opportunity for people to read what I have found.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible that these channels can be done for good.
Yeah.
Not just, and I'm not doing that for I haven't been promoted because of that, or I haven't been even, no one from the management has said, oh, well, amazing, this is so incredible. But I just do it from the passion.
I like it.
So it's an aha moment of
the
power of sharing and caring. Like this.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Anybody else? One last one before we move on.
I have one.
Hello.
Hi everyone. I don't really know if it's an aha moment as such, but I spent the weekend speaking to a lady who's creating a product that she wants to start solving a problem. And I was walking her through her business plan, and then we got to the marketing section. And she had something interesting in her business plan that said community-based marketing.
Yeah. And
I was like, what do you mean community-based marketing? And she was making reference to like WhatsApp channels.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everyone on WhatsApp, you get there's a football channel or whatever, but I never really understood the whole logic behind it. I just thought, the clubs, Arsenal just created because they're just trying to reach people who probably, a particular audience who probably are, WhatsApp users. And then so I asked her, I said, how are you looking to use it? And she said, her clients or her potential customers, because they are niche and because they are close-knit in terms of culture, being members of a community means that she can spread, her products and her services that way. And I never actually thought about it that way. as a marketing tool. I just thought, okay, yeah, it's just everyone will just create a channel on WhatsApp because it's a community and we're just going to chit chat, but they actually use it for marketing. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Didn't really think that was a thing as such.
No.
So yeah,
that was
my
cheers indeed. Love to hear from you. Right, we've only got a couple minutes left. To wrap up, don't assume, or don't just assume, right? Test. Remember those viewpoints. That I do like this one, but that problem might really be the tip of the iceberg, and you need to start seeing what's underneath that. So that could be an interesting one. And stay curious, right? Question things, understand them, try and move that needle from what we saw at the start to the right hand side and change how we work within our teams, because it will rub off onto people. Other people start thinking like that and talking like that. So yeah, do that. As ever, I've put the link to our product mastery pathway. The guys here have given you it for free, so go and utilize that, right? There's a lot of great content in there. I've gone through this course as well, really enjoyed it. So go and have a look. If you do it, leave a review, because it does help us, and then we can keep building better and better courses, more and more content for you as well. So next session, we are going to pencil in at the minute, probably the 19th of May. I think there'll be an invite coming out. We'll confirm that after this, but it should be sometime around then, I think, because we also have an in-person meetup, our first product one, in Belfast the week after that, so we'll have to move this one. And then that is it. I've got a whole load of different things in the appendix for a couple of bits. I'm not going through them now as such, but if you want to go and have a look, you are more than welcome to. Go and read, go and digest it all, go and learn some stuff, and say, be curious and discover what you can. And that is it from us. Any questions?
I just have a quick thought also. I'm just going to send a feedback form in the chat, and if you have a minute to answer, that would be really helpful for it.
Yeah, we would love the feedback, just because we want to keep doing this for you who turn up and see this. We want to make sure it's right, it hits what it needs to. So yeah, if there's anything we can do to help or pivot it, we will. But yeah, drop us some feedback, and we'll try and keep these going and keep them hopefully being of use and value to you. Any questions? Any last points from anybody? You're all quiet. Have I sent you all to sleep and gone, don't do this again, or you're all good? In that case, you're all free to go and get back on and save the product world.
Thank you.
Thank you for a good session. Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.